Okay, so I have never done a video on Diablo 4. I know, for shame. But here I am. I was on the Blizzard website. I realized that it's the 26th right now. Last night I saw that they went ahead and they posted their quarterly update for June 2020. And I figured, you know, a lot of our community, a lot of our viewers actually love the Diablo franchise and are looking forward to Diablo 4, myself included. Now, MRSSTIX is a huge fan of Diablo. She loved Diablo 3, which I know, don't hate her for enjoying Diablo 3. I know that there are a lot of people that actually did enjoy the game. Now, I want to go ahead and go through pretty much everything they covered regarding Diablo 4 because I feel like, you know, it's about time to. Now, they begin it by stating, to the Diablo community, hello and welcome to our latest Diablo 4 quarterly update. We're excited to share some of the progress we've made on the game today. As is the case with many other game and technology companies at the time of writing this, the Diablo 4 team has fully transitioned to working from home. While the transition has introduced challenges, we feel very fortunate to be able to keep momentum going strong on the development of Diablo 4. Now, concerning the team Playtest. As with many other games, we organize the development of Diablo 4 around team milestones. Often these culminate with a build which we play together and talk about as a team. For example, the milestones leading up to Blizzcon 2019 culminated in a team playtest of the demo that helped us unveil the game during the show. Besides getting an early look at what other team members have accomplished, this also allowed us to stress test the demo, catch additional bugs, and make improvements before the show. For our most recent milestone, we focused on blocking in all the elements in a region known as DRI Steps, complete with campaign content, open world elements, itemization, a PvP subzone, dungeons, and a cinematic to cap the completion of the region's narrative. Our goal was to then have the team play the game from home over the course of 2 full days. Man, like this right here, our goal was to have the team play the game from home over the course. My English is terrible right now, but like imagine working for Blizzard here and being like, I get to go home and play this really awesome game for 2 straight days. Like, I am being paid to sit at my computer and just play this game for days on end. That is crazy. Although, you know, I guess a little bit reminiscent of what I'm doing for, you know, my career, my job on YouTube, and then spend some time analyzing data and discussing our reactions. Of course, we play the game all the time, but we're often examining individual features or areas. Taking the time to play the same build together as a team over multiple days gives us a different perspective. It lets us see how all of the current features harmonize over a longer playtime. We had this as a goal before we knew we were going to move to a work from home environment, but as it turned out, it ended up being a really good way to reconnect as a team. Similarly, we hope that chatting about this playtest and sharing some screenshots with you will provide context for future blog updates or pique your curiosity about future topics. It's worth noting that the playtest also didn't represent the entirety of our progress. Other regions of the game are underway. The DRI Steps is just a region where we made a concerted push to create a complete and cohesive experience that we could draw observations from. Let us know if you liked this approach to the blog or if you didn't, and we can adjust future updates accordingly. As always, your feedback is highly recommended, highly appreciated. How am I even reading? Where are these words even coming from? I apologize, guys. A word about Blockout, and they actually have some images here. I think can actually, are these clickable or can, nope. Okay, they do open a new tab though. So I guess these are pre-alpha in development content. I mean, you know what? They look pretty good. I'll admit, they do look pretty good. These are, again, like in development though, like they're pre-alpha pictures. Oh, actually, so one is with all of the elements and all of the structures and everything in place, and here is the 3D model. Okay. That's very cool, very cool. As part of development, visuals are often kept in rough form so the game team can cheaply test ideas and iterate on them. If something isn't fun, it's much cheaper to change or discard a blockout asset than a final one. So that's what's called, they're called blockouts. When we share models or screenshots with you, they're often quite far along to adequately convey our vision for the game. We don't typically show blockout assets as they don't really do justice to the engine or the artistry of the folks on the team, but as part of showing the behind the scenes of how we make the game, we thought you'd appreciate seeing the transition of blockout assets into more polished ones. Some of the assets shown in this blog might not be final, so please bear that in mind as you check the screenshots below. We'll go ahead and we'll tab all these open. Here we have, like, this looks like the concept art more than anything for what, this weird demonic gargoyle thing, which you know, that looks pretty cool. That's the 3D rendering of him, which looks really cool. But I mean, these without textures. And there we have him in full in-game graphics, I guess. I know I'm not really doing like all that good with this, guys. I'm not really a developer. I don't really know anything about art or assets or anything regarding blockouts or gray boxing or anything like that. I'm just like looking at this as a content creator from like an actual gamer's perspective. Storytelling. A couple of things have evolved with how we deliver story in Diablo 4. First, we have conversations. In Diablo 3, we relied on UI panes with a character's name and portrait. We're experimenting with a mix of tool-generated and manually choreographed cameras to tackle conversation. For simple interactions with NPCs, we bring the camera in closer to the characters while still maintaining an overall isometric feel, and use a library of animations to deliver the general gist of the conversations. For more complex conversations, we take a similar camera approach, but here the characters' movements and animations are more deliberately handcrafted. This lets us deliver story moments that are complex while keeping you in the world as much as possible. Here's a shot from one such interaction. So, I mean, like, this is basically like any kind of normal traditional cutscene you'd see in a game, you know, where the characters are moving around and the scene's, you know, progressing and moving on its own, and then you have the text down the bottom. So I don't think Diablo 3 did that. Man, the last time I played Diablo 3 was like 3-4 years ago. My memory is really foggy on it, so I don't know if that's new. I mean, according to them, it's new, so I guess, you know, we'll have to take them at their word there. The second storytelling method we're developing is real-time cutscenes, or RTCs. Here we grab your camera and treat the storytelling mode more like a movie. So we're reserving this technique for the most important story moments. Having these be real-time has great advantages. We can show your character with their currently equipped armor as part of the scene, for example, but we can also display them at your current resolution and with your currently enabled graphical settings, so they end up feeling more seamless and like part of the game. We showed you some early work on real-time in-game cinematics during the Blizzcon demo. Our cinematics and engine teams have made a lot of improvements since then, so we were excited to see fully produced cinematics serve as a climax to the DRI Steps experience, and the team was not disappointed. Here's a couple of screen grabs that the story and cinematics folks have given us to go ahead to share with you, as it shouldn't spoil the details of what's to come. And here we have, I mean, you know, these graphics are very good, I'll admit, and yeah, this guy kind of reminds me of like a much larger Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I don't know if that's just me or not, and I'm not a huge Diablo fan. I don't know who these characters are or if they have any kind of importance to the overall story. According to Blizzard, the game is going to be open world. One of the main features we're bringing to the Diablo series is the open world of Sanctuary. So while you can concentrate on the story campaign and work through that, we have a variety of open world systems and pieces of content that you're also discovering along the way. If you want to take a break from the main campaign and go exploring or crafting or PvPing, you're free to do so. During the playtest, we saw this variability in action quite a bit. On an average playthrough, team members took several hours to complete the campaign content for the region, but those who focused only on the story finished the arc in less than half the average time, and were of course able to do some of the side content after that. We think the ability to approach the game with a different mix of story and side content tailored to your own appetite will make playing and replaying the campaign more enjoyable than it has ever been in previous ARPGs. And here we have a look at the DRI Steps environment. I mean, you know, if we're looking down here, we see a lot of water down there. It doesn't look that dry to me, but these look like pretty damn large zones, and they also seem very open. I remember in Diablo 3 that was not the case. They were very linear, very tight little zone. Like yeah, they may have had like some areas that were much more open, but they were kind of empty and void of anything other than the occasional group of monsters. While we have many open world activities such as crafting, events, world PvP, and side quests, perhaps the most popular open world feature was camps. These are locations of importance that have been overrun by enemies, which once cleansed, turn into friendly outposts with NPCs and a waypoint location. While there is a backstory to each camp, most of the storytelling is visual and quests don't directly send you to them. For example, one of the camps in the zone was a town afflicted by a curse that turned villagers into piles of salt. Another was a crypt haunted by a spirit that possesses the bodies of various undead, jumping from skeleton to skeleton until you defeat him. We really dug the impact of seeing the world change as you reclaim a small piece of Sanctuary and bring hope back to its common folk. We look forward to the open world designers showing you more about the feature in the future. Here we have a couple more images. This is, I guess, the zombie thing they were talking about. I'm not sure, but you know, it gives you a little glimpse of what the game looks like in game, and it looks pretty good. The ruins of Karayisu. You know, these are solid looking images. I'm not really sure what to say other than, okay, cool, looks cool. Oh, camps start out as hostile and turn into small hubs with a waypoint and vendors after being cleansed. So this is an example of one of the camps that you can see. There are two entrances, or one entrance, one exit to go into the camp from, and this is an example of, so these camps, you know, you end up raiding and then turning into your own little hub. I feel like that's kind of a cool little feature to have. I always enjoyed having those kind of bases that you would raid in games. Like, granted, you know, you'd get to them, you'd raid them, you'd take them over, and then you turn them in your own little village. I always found that to be a really cool little feature, but then after I'd raided them all, they were kind of just there. And like, I think even in Horizon Zero Dawn, this was a thing, right? That happened in Horizon. You'd raid those bandit camps, and then you'd turn them into little villages that you could, you know, populate with people. They even had merchants in them. But yeah, that's a really cool feature. I just feel like after you've raided them though, it kind of becomes lifeless and purposeless, but still the act of doing it's really fun and really cool. Finally, mounts were another thing you could obtain during the playthrough. We really liked how the open world interacts with mounts. You could get to your objectives more quickly without trivializing travel or combat. Itemization for mounts also opened up a new axis of progression. One of my favorite things about mounts was customizing it by attaching a trophy to the saddle to signal to other players that I had completed an obscure challenge in the zone. Of course, there is more work to be done on mounts. For example, on navigation and tuning, it is currently too easy to get stuck on stray pieces of collision or you get dismounted by a random enemy projectile. These are all things that are just going to get better the more we play and the more we tune the feature. And honestly, like, I have always hated in games when you get dismounted from an enemy. Like, there's an enemy that's 20-30 feet behind you and it's like casting a magical spell, and then like you've progressed like 10 seconds away from it while the projectile is slowly chasing you. It tags you and you get dismounted, and then you can't mount again because you're in combat for like the next 30 seconds. Like, please tell me I'm not the only one that hated when this would happen in games. Multiplayer, and this is the most important aspect of Diablo to me because I play these games with MRSSTIX, so not having it be multiplayer friendly kind of kills the motivation for me to actually get in game and play it. But fine-tuning the right approach to multiplayer in Diablo 4 has been challenging. Our goal has always been to incorporate elements from shared world games without the game ever feeling like it's veering into massively multiplayer territory. To be clear, this is a philosophy rather than a tech limitation. We find that the game stops feeling like Diablo and the world feels less dangerous when you see other players too often or in too high numbers. Towns become social hubs where you can run into other players once key segments in the story are completed. And you know what? They mentioned that this isn't so much a tech limitation, but to me, like, I feel like, yeah, I know it might feel less Diablo-ish because there are a lot more people running about and engaging in content, but so I feel like one of the only franchises that are capable of giving World of Warcraft a run for its money in terms of which MMO is king, the most played MMO on the market right now, might actually be Diablo. Like, I feel like if Blizzard had actually made a Diablo MMO, they could have millions upon millions of people playing this thing. But maybe that's just my opinion. Well, I mean, yeah, that's my opinion, but maybe it's just me that thinks that way. I don't know. I'll break down our experiences during the playtest with some examples. Dungeons and key story moments are always private, just a player and their party. Once story moments are complete and towns turned into social hubs, you'd run into a few people in town. While on the road, you'd sometimes run into a player here and there. And then finally, if you went to a location where a world event was happening, you'd see a larger congregation of players trying to defend against an attack by a cannibal horde or trying to take down Ashava, the demonic world boss we showed at Blizzcon. It's worth calling out that while some coordination is helpful during these events, you're never forced to join a party. Solo players can walk right in, they can help complete the event and claim a reward. We think this seamless approach to multiplayer is working well and look forward to sharing more about this approach with you. In our tests so far, the world feels alive and dynamic without compromising the feel of Diablo. And for players that do want to party up against the minions of hell, we have new tools available to find a group, whether by activity or proximity in the game world. This is the world boss Ashava that was shown during BlizzCon 2019, and this can be spawned in the DRI Steps, and you know, that kind of looks like the inside of a butthole. I'm not gonna lie, like it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but it looks like I'm looking at the inside of a butt. That's all I got to say about this guy. And then we have items in progression. I just spat everywhere there. I'm sorry if you guys saw like the spit particles eject itself from my mouth. One of the things that was very useful about our 2-day playtest was that we could get better feedback on progression, as there was a sense of permanence. Gear and skill choices you make on day 1 have an impact on day 2, though some people chose to roll ults as we had multiple classes to test. A friend of mine used to say that Diablo is a game that you keep playing inside your head, and Diablo 4 is no different. In addition to the official playtime allotted to the team during the playtest, I could feel the game lingering in my mind, thinking about the items that could possibly drop from my build and talents I could finally unlock to get me those key skill interactions. You might have already read the developer blog by David Kim shortly after last BlizzCon. In it, he describes new affixes and itemization philosophies. We'll have a beefier update on items later in the year, but in the meantime, here are some items that dropped during the playtest to whet your appetite. So like, I don't know what the different colors signify. I'm assuming yellow is probably rarer than the purple, or yeah, I feel like that's accurate. And yeah, the orange is legendary. That makes sense. But there are examples of some of the stuff, some of the gear that dropped during their 2-day playtest. And finally, I'm assuming this is finally, yeah, here we have their other thoughts. The overall feedback from the team was that even at these early stages, Diablo 4 is very fun to play. But I mean, like, I feel like any developer will be telling their community or their potential customers that their game is a lot of fun to play, right? That makes sense. The classes especially are going down a promising path that we're excited about. We're taking cues from what makes the Barbarian's Arsenal system or the Druid's shapeshifting feel special and looking for ways to apply similar innovations to all classes. More on this in a future update. The playtest was also a really good way to put our tech through its paces. Since we played at home, we got to test the game on a lot of different setups, from graphics cards to screen aspect ratios to network speeds. We also had the opportunity to exercise our client server technology, including deploying builds with fixes to bugs during the playtest. Of course, we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and to be clear, we are not at an alpha or beta stage yet. We don't typically discuss our early milestones publicly during the course of development, but we think it's especially important to continue to share our progress during a year without a BlizzCon. Also, this was an important milestone for the team, as we feel it corroborated that we have all of the key ingredients for a great Diablo 4. Of course, we'll continue to seek feedback and iterate as we drive to completion. We hope that you've enjoyed this update, and as always, we welcome you to share your thoughts on the platform of your choice, whether it's our own forums, other sites, or social media. We read and appreciate your comments and your feedback. We were happy to see lots of great discussion after our last blog, which seeded a bunch of conversations on our end as well. We're also excited to see the range of topics you guys want to hear about based on your response so far. We think talent trees are by far what you're the most eager to discuss, so we'll make sure to queue that up for our very next blog. Items continue to be a popular topic, and there was also a lot of interest in music. We're shooting to have more updates around those topics later in the year. Let us know how that sounds. Thank you for taking your time to read this update, and it was a long update, guys. It really was. So I apologize if you had to sit through all of this, or actually I thank you if you had to sit through all of this. My thoughts on it are the game is actually coming along really well. It looks pretty good. It looks dork. It looks gory. It looks creepy. We saw a giant butthole monster. Like, what more could you want out of a Diablo game, right? Now, I don't know how this is going to compare to Diablo 3 or the earlier Diablo games. I'm not sure. I'm excited to play this because I haven't really found that many different isometric MMOs that, or even not isometric MMOs, just haven't found many isometric games that I've really connected with. I feel like Diablo 4 might be one that I can, and it might be partially due to the fact that I can play this with my wife, MRSSTIX. But you know what, all that being said, what do you guys think of their latest update? Are you guys more or less excited for the game? Let me know down in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Anyway, guys, that is it for me. I am parched, like my mouth is so dry. I've been spitting everywhere while speaking. I need to drink some water. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this, and yeah.
Someday soon I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be worth it. Ooh,